Thank you very much, Rachel, for your presentation on NetApp. But please don't go anywhere. We would love you to join our panel now, our discussion with some members of NTT. So I'll start by introducing the team and starting with Paolo. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Adam. Yes, Paolo Maselli. I'm the CEO of NTT Limited, responsible for the UK and Ireland region, and been in this role for about 18 months now, as we brought all of the NTT Limited companies together.
Thank you, Paolo. Florian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Adam. Florian Winkler. I lead NTT's data center infrastructure business in EMEA. I've worked for larger multinational ICT companies like Siemens and BT in the past before I joined eShelter, a data center specialist company in Central Europe. And various of those data center specialist companies have come across the world together under the roof of NTT. And I'm really excited to drive the further integration for this business in the EMEA region. Today, I'm virtually joining you from Munich in Germany, where I live.
Thank you, Florian. Stephen?
Hi, I'm Steve Campbell-Ferguson. I'm the Senior Vice President for Design and Engineering for NTT Global Data Centers in EMEA. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I've been designing, industrial facilities for almost 30 years, and nothing but data centers for co-location suppliers, hyperscalers for the last 15 years. And I say I'm calling you today from the west of England.
Thank you, Stephen. Rachel, although we met you earlier on in your video, it doesn't feel right if I don't give you another opportunity to introduce yourself. Rachel?
Thanks, Adam. I'm Rachel Swinfen, and I work for NetApp here in the UK and Ireland business. I've been working with NTT for over 7 years in EMEA, but now specifically focusing on that UK market. I engage with NTT Limited, but also with the global data center business, and we support you in your technology experience labs.
Great to have you here, Rachel, and great to have my colleagues from NTT as well. Let's start with some questions. Florian, NTT has already got substantial investments with data centers in the UK, with large sites out in Hemel Hempstead, presence in Slough, but now you're coming to East London. Can you tell us a little bit of the strategy behind that?
Sure, Adam. And there are several things which made us move to east of London there. First of all, London is by far the largest of the 4 key data center colocation markets in Europe and is enjoying exceptional growth. And together with our existing locations you just mentioned, Dagenham is a great opportunity for us to grow in London and meet and serve the demand which is predominant and prevailing there. Secondly, Dagenham is much closer to the city. In fact, you can see the Docklands from the top of our facility in London 1. And this vicinity to key sectors in the market is key for a data center hub, media and finance, for instance. And we're delighted that the largest studios, for instance, are going to be our neighbors here in Dagenham. And thirdly, with this facility, we're backing Britain, where we, from a data center infrastructure perspective, continue to see a great momentum for growth. But probably Paolo is best suited to answer the question. What do you think how Britain will compete at the global stage?
Yeah, thanks, Florian. Look, politically and economically, I think Britain is emerging as a more influential global leader. And it's because I think it's more aligned with most countries around the world. And that's why I think NTT chose UK as its headquarters. As an example, Japan and the UK have announced the UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. There's an increase in the bilateral engagement and business between UK and Japanese companies, especially in technology. And in fact, at the end of November, we had a UK-Japan Tech Forum where Tech UK and Japan Electronics and Information Technology bodies hosted 60 representatives from British and Japanese technology companies to discuss how we can increase economic benefit for all parties. We also see an enormous development in the healthcare environment, an example of which is a vaccine that's been developed by AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford. And this strengthens the fact that the UK has the best undergraduate and postgraduate education in the world. and there are some 400,000 foreign students registered at UK universities. And I've found that even Silicon Valley banks are pushing funding into the UK digital technology startups, because it's been recognized that the UK has excellent skills in this area. And, you know, Britain has historically been a financial powerhouse, and that's not changed. So I think Britain is well positioned as a global powerhouse.
Thank you, Paolo. You mentioned there about the skilled side. Maybe over to you, Rachel, from a NetApp point of view as well. What do you think this means for digital skills in the UK?
I think almost every business today operates digitally, and it's commonly understood that to remain relevant and agile, that most businesses need to transform in some way or other. But technology has also moved on from the traditional way of managing digital infrastructure. The rise of public cloud, DevOps, and FinOps approaches, and technologies like machine learning and AI mean that the teams that build and run these infrastructures need to transform their own skills and approaches. I think NetApp technology can meet the needs of today's businesses, but also provides the foundation for a more agile, connected, and diverse future. I think together with NTT, we can help our customers improve their understanding of digital transformation and accelerate valuable outcomes for their business. I think it's worth adding also the UK is home to more tech unicorns than any other European country. So by making technology decisions and deployment and management easier, we can help them drive their businesses forward faster. And this can only be a good thing for the UK.
Thank you, Rachel. You mentioned there about connected, and of course, NTT is originally a telecommunications company, and yet, whilst other telecommunications companies have divested themselves of their data center assets, NTT has become the third largest global data center company. Florian, can you talk a little bit why NTT has taken this direction?
Sure, Adam, and you're right. Some other customer companies do it differently, and NTT has long since entered into a journey from a pure play telco based in Japan towards a provider of comprehensive ICT services at a global scale. And the strategy is to provide these full stack solutions. NTT feels it is very important to own that key elements of the physical infrastructure layer, amongst them critically data centers, but also submarine cables and maybe the IP network globally. And this is a long-term vision, ultimately to support our clients' digital infrastructure in the best possible way. And secondly, we've seen the acceleration of hybrid IT, which has quickly become reality and thriving and growing. And all of this is happening in the data center, where public cloud meets private cloud, on-premise meets off-premise. And data centers provide the foundations for further hybrid true IT solutions, and the data center layer acts as an enablement for these parts, other parts of the wider NTT portfolio. But I'm speaking only for the data center colocation layer. So Rachel, we work with NetApp across a number of data centers, and you're helping clients with their IT. It would be great to get your perspective on it.
Sure, Florian. I think we all recognise that a successful business needs to have the agility to be able to pivot quickly in response to market conditions. I think we've seen that this year with COVID. To enable this, you've got to have a digital infrastructure that supports the agility and pace of change. Now, this year has taught us that sometimes the way we respond requires a radical shift in how we deliver IT services. For example, an entire global workforce changing overnight to working from home, consuming infrastructure that needs to scale quickly and deliver a service to multiple remote locations. I think NTT's vision means they are really well placed to help customers deliver the solutions they need to ensure business continuity across countries and geographies, including those fast connections into all of the major hyperscalers to support hybrid multi-cloud workloads. NetApp deliver those data management capabilities to underpin this. And that's really important.
Thanks, Rachel. You mentioned hybrid IT there, which is obviously a big topic in data centers and the IT world at the moment. The other big topic is obviously sustainability. This has been growing as a topic, much like hybrid IT. Paolo, could you talk a little bit about how NTT look to answer the challenges of sustainability going forward?
Sure, thanks, Adam. This is a very pertinent topic at the moment. We have now seen a massive shift in the way organizations are thinking about sustainability. And this has been accelerated by COVID. The topic has become a ticket to the game because many companies will only engage if suppliers have a clear sustainability and CSR strategy. So if you look at NTT Limited's purpose is to enable the connected future together. And this means to come together to make the world a better place. And every day we use the power of technology to do that. Now, through the work that we've done with our clients and with our communities, we find ways that technology can make a positive impact, and that extends well beyond the bottom line. That's why sustainable development is core to who we are. And at the heart of our business, our relationships are not only built on loyalty and commitment, but also a shared belief in what is possible when we work together for a better world for all of us to live in. So we therefore support all 17 United Nations Global Sustainable Development Goals, and we're proud to be a business avenger for Goal 11, which is for sustainable cities and communities. And an example of this is the work that we've done in the city of Las Vegas in terms of safety management in emergency situations. And sustainability has become so important for us in the UK that I've appointed one of my executives as a regional sustainability representative, and it's part of a group initiative that we've got under one of the executive at group level. And what we're now doing is we're embedding sustainability into how we engage with our clients, and it allows us to accelerate and scale the impact we can have on the environment. We're not just selling our products and services, but we're rather creating an environment for us and our clients and our partners to share our thoughts and actions so that we can learn from each other and pool our efforts to achieve more together.
Thank you, Paolo. We've talked about sustainability in the wider context. Bringing us back to Dagenham, Stephen, can you talk a little bit about what NTT has done in the design for London 1 to address sustainability and sustainability concerns?
Yes, Adam, I'd love to. Sustainability is core to any modern data center design, and probably the most important factor for us is energy and energy use. Everyone knows that data centers absorb a lot of electrical power to serve the IT. We, as the data center operator, use power in terms of conditioning, electricity through UPS systems and through our deployment of cooling systems to reject heat from the buildings. So we focus a lot on our contribution and how we design those systems, and our cooling system design for Dagenham, I would say, is world leading. We've really pushed the envelope of operating conditions to maximize free cooling. This allows us to use evaporative cooling all year round through cooling towers. That means we have no chillers or refrigeration systems on site. That means that we end up with a PUE, that's a power usage efficiency of 1.2. So, for every 1 kilowatt going into the IT equipment, there's less than 0.2 of a kilowatt that we use for all the other systems, which is leading edge. And as well as sort of saving us that core energy, the lack of chillers means we haven't got refrigeration, and refrigerants themselves have a global warming impact, and also without refrigeration we're not relying on the copper materials for switchboards and chillers to serve that need. So we save on material use. The second aspect we look at is reuse of energy. So data centers produce a lot of waste heat, and we have opportunities to reuse that waste heat with our neighbours, be it in the studios that are being developed next door or with local housing developments that we're discussing with the local borough council. And that allows us to take our waste heat to provide it to our neighbours, that they then allow them to install heat pumps, that provide very efficient, electrical driven heating systems for housing that displaces gas fired power boilers that are the common use of heat in buildings in the UK. So that adds to our the benefits to our community. And probably the final factor is looking at how we buy our power. So we buy all our electricity from renewable sources, that's certifiable sources. That means we're indirectly investing in the large growth in renewable sources in Britain. Wind farms, offshore wind farms, large increases in solar. That's helping to decarbonise Britain and allowing the UK government to set very ambitious targets for decarbonisation. So we're glad that we're doing our bit.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. A key element of your design is scalability and capacity. These are obviously also major parts of the NetApp offer. How important is the infrastructure to you at NetApp, Rachel?
So, Adam, I think the data center infrastructure is incredibly important. I think when people are talking about scalability and capacity, traditionally we think of a sort of vertical approach where you might add more servers or storage or network. However, even the smallest business can become global overnight, and that means delivery models need to scale not only from a physical infrastructure perspective, but also where new locations might be required. So NetApp can provide the tools required to scale data management capabilities exponentially, but only someone like NTT can provide that physical infrastructure at the global level and the tier one network capabilities to join all of those endpoints together.
Thank you, Rachel. Stephen, how do you answer that within NTT and your design at London 1?
So, Adam, the design at London 1, we've got the first building that we've already built, which is capable of up to 32 megawatts of capacity. We've got space for a second similar building of another 32 megawatts. But the core of our design is based around a 1 megawatt block for both the UPS and cooling systems that allow us to grow our deployment to suit our customers' needs, be that in the size of data hall. So we can provide a data hall of 2 megawatts, 4 megawatts, 6 megawatts, but also in the mode of deployment in terms of UPS systems deployed in distributed redundant schemes or in catcher block schemes, which are variants that different customers prefer, and it allows us to be flexible to meet their needs. And probably, finally, it gives us opportunities to vary the density in halls from the low densities that we need for some of our enterprise and retail customers, up to the high densities that our hyperscale customers require. So overall, it's good for us that we can meet a wide range of requirements, and also good for our customers that their requirements can be met by our London 1 facility.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Finally, I'd just like to go around the whole panel and just ask you in a couple of words to say what you see as being key to the data center of the future. As it's Florian, as the leader of GDC EMEA, I guess first question on that should come to you. What do you see as in a few words, as the key factors?
Well, the key factors of the data center in the future, if I just sum it up, it's an efficient platform for all kinds of needs. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be clearly universally connected, most importantly, and further, it needs to be climate neutral. And by that, data centers are the backbone of the cloud. And the cloud, again, drives all the digitalization of the society, which hopefully makes all of our lives easier.
Okay, thank you, Florian. Rachel, from the customer's perspective?
So I think echoing Florian there, I think connected, so edge to core to cloud. And secondly, scalable, so automated delivery where infrastructure choice is based on business requirements and cost.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Paolo, then, from the wider NTT's perspective?
I think for me, it needs to be totally green. The sustainability goals that we have forces us to go in that direction. I think it's something which we have a responsibility for. So for me, the green aspect is critical.
And Stephen, finally, from the engineer's perspective.
I think I'll reiterate the comments around green and carbon neutral, and I see the future data center will be powered electrically from a fully, carbon neutral grid. And we'll be helping to support that through on-site generation and storage systems, large-scale battery systems, possibly hydrogen-powered generators, and various other technologies with reuse of heat to local communities playing a larger and larger part.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I'd like to thank all of the panel for a great conversation, but I'm not going to let them go just yet, because we're going to have some questions now in from our viewing audience, who I'm sure will be far more interesting than my questions. So let's now have a look at the questions we've had in.
Mm-hmm.
Cut.